Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the OR News broadcast for our daily English news edition. I'm Daniel Cook, your host, presenting a translated version of today's top news stories, weekdays at 6 p.m. It seems that the political consensus on justice reform lasted only one day. The Democratic Party has announced that it will boycott the ad hoc commission until its demands are met. The party gave the same conditions that have already been given for the parliament. The Democrats demand that the majority must send the mandates of the MPs Sully and Leskai to the Constitutional Court for interpretation. They are accused of illegally benefiting from public funds. It's reported that the latest Democratic boycott was decided in today's meeting of the parliamentary group, which was held behind closed doors. Sources from within the meeting tell us that the party considers the discussion of the constitutional changes to be a paradox at a time when the majority is completely ignoring the Constitutional Court. Just after the plenary session ended today, the former Prime Minister Salih Berisha issued a call to the President to give an opinion on what Berisha is calling a governmental coup. Berisha said that the Parliament has been transformed into a den of criminals and thieves, and according to him, it should be immediately dissolved. He commented, "For 3 weeks now, the decision of the Constitutional Court has been blocked by people who are using their mandates for personal gain. This is one of the most grave situations in our history. In these conditions, the parliament needs to be dissolved. It has become a nest of criminals and thieves. Only the Albanian citizens can do this. The president should be consulted, along with the best constitutional experts of the country. He should express his stance on this unconstitutional act, on this coup," said Mr. Berisha. The socialist MP Taulant Bala also spoke to the press after the parliament, calling Berisha's comments abusive. According to him, the Constitutional Court should resolve this issue. He reminded Berisha that the opposition is free to take the issue to the Constitutional Court without blocking the podium in the plenary session. Today's session was held amid a great deal of commotion, and the opposition members attempted to disrupt the parliament. Arguing that the Prime Minister is defending criminals, the Democratic MPs stood up and surrounded the podium, but they were not able to interrupt the plenary session. The Socialist MPs carried on with their discussions of the bills, regardless of the opposition. At one point, the Democratic MP Edward Halimi called out the following statement: "You are taking over the competence of the Constitutional Court. The mandates of the two MPs must be taken before the court. If the court declares them innocent, we will apologize, but we consider this to be a governmental coup." Since that time, Albania's President Bujar Nishani has given a response. He says that he will take action based upon his constitutional rights. The duties of the President of the Republic are clearly defined in the Constitution, he said, so the President will follow and implement the Constitution in every case and every circumstance, said President Nishani. Now that the majority and the opposition have agreed on the supervision of the National Bureau of Investigation, Salih Berisha has appealed for the Bureau to be established as soon as possible. He said today that there is no need to wait for the approval of every constitutional provision. The Bureau of Investigation should be voted on immediately, he said, adding that it needs to be adopted as the first chapter of the reform. According to him, the other topics can be dealt with afterward. He clarified, "I am not saying that we should vote on the Bureau and not on the justice reform. My idea is that we should vote on the Bureau first, without the obligation of waiting until every single amendment is adopted." The former Prime Minister insisted that the Bureau be adopted as soon as possible, but the Vice Chairman of the Socialist Parliamentary Group says that Berisha is trying to hamper the justice reform. He said, "The Democratic Party is in a difficult situation. In the evening, they agree on something with Lulzim Basha, but in the morning, Berisha changes their opinion. Yesterday, we made progress in the reform, and this morning, Salih Berisha ordered the Democrats to block the plenary session. Salih Berisha has a lot of problems with the law. This is why he is hampering the justice reform," said Bala. These statements were made outside the Parliament building today after the plenary session. In honor of the innocent victims who lost their lives in the Belgium attacks, the Albanian Parliament held a minute of silence at the beginning of today's plenary session. The Assembly Speaker Ilir Meta said that Albania stands with the other European countries in the fight against terrorism. He said, "The repeated aggression against the citizens and states of Europe and above all against the European values, further motivates us to increase our contribution and our determination to win this battle. Terrorism cannot have a place in Europe, said Mr. Mehta. Tuesday's terrorist attacks in Brussels killed 31 people and injured hundreds more. After the recent terrorist attacks in Brussels, the security measures have been increased at all of Albania's border points, ports, and the airport. In addition to the alarm level being raised to orange in the Rinas airport, the Minister of Transport has ordered the security of the ports to be tested. According to the ministry, this precautionary measure is being taken to prevent any possible incidents. The ministry's announcement indicates that there will be thorough security checks at the ports of Shenzhen, Vlora, Saranda, and Durrës. The notification reads, in addition to the checks that are already being made for everyone entering or leaving Albania, there will also be detailed searches of all vehicles and passengers. We have already begun to implement these measures. We encourage the citizens to be patient and cooperate with the authorities. The Port Authority is overseeing the implementation of all these measures, reads the ministry announcement. The border points that are shared with Montenegro are being monitored closely by the police forces from both countries. The Tirana prosecution is seeking a sentence of 1 year in prison for the former Minister of Education, Mr. Tafaj. He is charged with abusing his office when he led the ministry from 2009 to 2013. In a court session that lasted about 50 minutes, the prosecutor familiarized the court with the case against Tafaj. The prosecution accuses him of accrediting the study programs of a university called Vitrina in defiance of the law. Allegedly, he accredited 8 different study programs after the Accreditation Council had already rejected them because the university did not meet any of the proper qualifications. The prosecution says that Mr. Tafaj was aware that the university was unqualified, but that he was pressured by the directors to accredit the programs anyway. As a result, the university was accredited in 2009 and subsequently licensed in 2010. During this year, it continued to operate without a license. It's estimated that the financial damage to the state because of this fraud is about €1 million, attributed to the academic year of 2010 through 2011. Mr. Tafaj was not present in the court session today, represented only by his lawyer. The court is scheduled to issue a ruling on this case on April 14th. The heavy rain in the last 2 days has raised the awareness of the Ministry of Agriculture against any potential flooding. After a meeting today with the Kuwaiti Minister of Agriculture, Minister Panariti announced that working teams are already in the field to monitor the situation. He announced that the compensation for the floods last year will start next month, amounting to €6 million. He said, the government will keep its promises to compensate for the damage caused by floods. Meanwhile, the businesses should be getting flood insurance. In his meeting today, the Minister of Agriculture signed a cooperation agreement with his Kuwaiti counterpart. The Kuwaiti minister promised that his country will provide assistance for Albania's flooding problems in the form of machinery for clearing the drains. He showed interest in Albanian water exports as well. The state of Kuwait pays more attention to food safety, he said. During the meeting, we discussed the difficulties that Albania faces with the floods in the north and the south. We are ready to bring some tools to help you clear out the drainage channels. We are interested in the water sector, and we are looking at the possibility of importing Albanian water. When asked about problems with the quality of flour coming from Kosovo and Serbia, the minister said that tests have been run and that no problems were found. That's all of our news for this evening. Thanks for watching, and please join us at the same time tomorrow for more news in English. Have a great night.